I have spent my life studying womanhood, healing it, teaching it, protecting it. But then I gave birth to a woman, and raising her has been the greatest revelation of all, because this human being leaves me in awe. Her beauty, both inner and outer, is undeniable. Her clarity cuts through noise like a blade of truth. Her heart is fierce and tender in the same breath. I have watched her stand up for what is right and call out what is not. I have watched her refuse to shrink. Again and again, she chooses healing, and she refuses to betray her power. I have helped thousands of women remember who they are, but this woman reminds me of who I am, over and over again. She is living proof that the next generation of women is not waiting for change. They are the change. Ladies and ladies, my daughter, Ava Hanson. This is Things Your Mother Never Told You. Let's begin. Well, this is such an incredible moment because I am so excited. Ava, we had planned to have this conversation, and we've had previous episodes, just the two of us. And then it turns out that your boyfriend, Chris, could be here to join this conversation. And the reason I wanted to do this episode is because I am in awe of the maturity and the level of how you are in relationship together for the past 3 years. And it is really atypical for couples your age. You've been together 3 years. You've weathered all kinds of storms, long distance, all kinds of different challenges that have come up, which we'll talk about. But what I want to showcase in this conversation, what I think is so amazing, is the staying power and the willingness you both have for what you have created. And the fact that this has not just dropped out of thin air to you. You have co-created this beautiful dynamic. So I think it's important for my listeners to hear, what does it look like to build and architect a relationship with so much intention? And the possibility that you all are, and the example that you all are to young couples. And that's what I really hope, even for my listeners, to share this episode with your daughters, with your sons, as a template for what is possible. There are so many beautiful, divine, masculine men out there that are waiting to actually have some, for lack of a better word, guidance on how to get there. And I talk a lot about this in a relationship with your father, and I want to hear from the two of you. And so first and foremost, thank you both for being here and being willing to take your time to do this. I know it's a busy weekend for you.
Yeah, we're really excited. And like you were saying, we had planned to do this, but you know, a lot of what we were planning on talking about was going to be about our relationship. So it worked out that he was here, and I feel like it was only fitting that he be a part of it too. Even though he joked yesterday that he wouldn't be able to get a word in, but we'll try.
We're going to give you so much airspace. I think actually in many ways, people are going to be most excited to hear from you, quite honestly. Really and truly. So Chris, is this your first podcast?
Yes, this is. And I'm honored to be on here. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm honored that this is your first one. This gets to be, we're popping the cherry of the podcasting experience here with Ava.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. So first and foremost, tell me a little bit about, so you've been together for 3 years, a little like 3 years and 2 months. And we knew Chris
beforehand.
Yes, very briefly and from a distance through your brothers.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, do you want to tell the story of when he came on a ski trip and you didn't want to come out of the bedroom?
Well, I did come out of the bedroom and we talked too, but it was different then. But yeah, we, I mean, you kind of know this, but I guess for people listening, we grew up in the same town. I mean, we moved around a lot, but from 3rd grade until college, we lived in Connecticut. And so Chris is 3 years, 3 months, 3 days older than me. So
3.
Yeah.
I love this.
Anyway, but so when I was a freshman in high school, he was a senior. So it wasn't anything, obviously. I mean, we had completely different lives, but we knew who, like, we both knew who each other were. And Hayden was friends with him because they shared, like, a mutual friend. And Yeah, my freshman year, I knew who he was. I thought he was cute. He didn't really think about me like that, but
Wait a minute, I saw a video of you
I was
where
just gonna mention that.
where he zoomed in. Tell us about this moment, Chris.
I
But he didn't know
didn't
until
know
we were
this video
dating.
existed until we started dating, but
In a while into us.
You are the ultimate womanifester.
Everyone said that. I'm like, wow. And yeah. I mean, I didn't take it
Let's
thinking
let him-
we're going to be together, but, I thought he was cute.
She snuck a video of me at the pep rally when she was a freshman and I was a senior, and I was a captain on the soccer team, so I got to introduce the whole team. And she was sitting front row and has this video of me where she zoomed in on me because she thought I was cute.
Yeah, all my friends were laughing. It was so
We're
funny.
gonna clip that in here.
Yeah,
so
we definitely
everyone will
should.
get to
It's
see
got
that
millions
video.
of views on TikTok.
Yeah, it
I
went
think,
viral
so.
on TikTok.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, but it was.
But
yeah.
honestly, let's just pause there for a minute. Like, while you may have not realized,
I
from
would have never
there-
thought we would be together. It wasn't like that.
But here's the point. What you might not realize, from there to
Yeah.
where you are now, you were the one who reached out to him initially.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And made the first contact. So you were already energetically setting
Yeah.
and calling in and co-conspiring with the universe the thing that you wanted to attract. So please give yourself some credit for you have some serious power there to call in what it is that you're desiring.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I did reach out to him. But that comes later. We knew each other again. And then he did that same year come on a ski trip with us because the best friend that they share, which Frankie, and then Hayden was inviting him, and Frankie said, "Can Chris come?" And then I forget if Hayden told me or who told me that he was coming, and I remember telling all my friends, "Oh my God, Chris Gerald's coming on a ski trip with my family, oh my God." And I was so...
I didn't even know this is a big deal for you.
I was not going to say that because I know you'd probably say something, so I was like, oh my God. But yeah, but it was kind of just little things like that, and then, maybe we'd kind of pass each other at a party, or like he'd be with Quan or something over at our house, and it'd be little things here and there, but it wasn't ever a thing because we were at different places in our life. We were at different ages where it would have been weird at that point. But yeah, then when I was a freshman in college, that's when we still lived in Connecticut and we were coming back, or I was coming back for winter break. That's when I reached out to him, and the rest is history.
I love that you took that initiative. Were you
Yeah.
surprised to hear from her?
Oh yeah, I immediately sent a picture to a bunch of my friends, and I think I sent one back to you saying, "Was this an accident?"
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't even know why we had each other on Snapchat, honestly,
Yeah.
but we'd never Snapchatted before. So I don't know why we did, but
She said, "No, it wasn't an accident. I always thought you were cute, and I wanted you to know."
I said that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
I was ready.
Wow, okay.
Talk about going after what you want. I mean, this
Yeah.
is just such a perfect example of not holding back and waiting for the thing to just happen. You got into action. You're like, I see something I'm interested in. I'm going to take action. And what's the worst thing that can happen? It's like, oh yeah, nice to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. And then nothing comes of it.
I think I knew that he would respond.
Oh, girl. Oh, I love
Yeah.
the confidence.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
mean-
Not wrong.
It worked out. Thank God I did.
So the reason that I thought it was so important to have this conversation is I work with grown women all around the world and hear about their strife when it comes to relationships, particularly as it relates to communication and as it relates to the inability for them to feel seen, heard, and understood as a woman in their relationship. And I think there's a lot of frustration, and women are at this place like it just doesn't exist. I am of the belief it can be built. You might not just find it, like with your dad, such an incredible, amazing, wonderful man, but Dad would be the first one to say, and someday I'm going to get him on this damn show. He's like,
It's crazy that you haven't.
Yeah.
well, I've asked him about 25 times. He's like, I will. But he would be the first one to admit he didn't just step into, he had the capabilities, but he didn't just step into being this deeply understanding man about the dynamics of the world, especially as it relates through the experience of a woman. And you know that we were talking about that last night at dinner, how Dad's even been on this evolution because of my constant willingness to come back to the table and teach and have conversations, and his constant willingness to stay open and curious. So you and Chris navigate so many issues in your relationship for a very young couple that I think are conversations that most couples your age are not having.
Yeah.
how do you do that? Can you give us an example of like what that has looked like in your relationship where you maybe did not see eye to eye, he wasn't fully understanding, or vice versa? What is your process? I think that's the piece that if we really distill it down, what is your process to bring him in, not in such a way that he can't hear it, that he's willing to be like, I'm willing to stay here and listen to your perspective? What do you think is the process that you go through?
Honestly, kind of, as I was saying when we have been talking about this the past few days, I think we're still kind of learning that. I think we've gotten so much better at it, but it is a learning process throughout our entire relationship. And I guess depending on what it is that we're bringing to each other, it might change a little bit. You know, normal relationship issues, I think we go about maybe slightly differently than maybe issues that I feel as a woman, and you know, how he does or doesn't understand that as a man, or my frustration about what's going on in the world and how he does or doesn't understand that. And I mean, at the point we're at now, it's also, like we were saying, it's a completely different place where it's easier, it flows easier. We both see each other more, we both understand each other more. But again, that has been a process. And I think, honestly, as we were saying, there was for a while, it was hard. Honestly, because I am very in my own ways. I'm very in my beliefs, and I feel very, very strongly about them. There's so much of who I am, as
And
you
just
know.
for context, we're not talking about like, I like to have this coffee cup or
Oh,
I have
no,
this
this
kind of
is-
morning routine. We're
yeah.
talking about fundamental
Oh, yeah.
value system and issues
Yeah.
related to the world and what's happening, women's rights,
Yeah, it's-
diversity for the global.
The political climate, everything that's going on, that's what I'm referencing right now. I'm very in my own ways about that, and I feel very deeply about that. So I think initially at our relationship, once you get a few months in, and it's not just like we like each other, and it's getting a little bit deeper, you know, and the political climate's changing and things are picking up and getting more serious, and I'm becoming more aware of them, and I'm maturing. He matured as well, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't have been in a relationship with him if he wasn't, but it was definitely, I would get really upset about things, and I would feel very strongly about things, and he just, on certain things, wouldn't see eye to eye on them and wouldn't understand. And at first, I would overreact, and I would get upset, and I would kind of shut down, because to me, it felt like, oh, we're losing this relationship, because I know I can't be with somebody who doesn't understand this. But it took a while for me to try and get to the point of, okay, and that's fine that I feel that way, but what am I gonna do about it rather than just giving up? Because I expected him to be where he is now, then, and that was, even though it would have been great, it's unfair to want that and to expect that for
And if
so
that
many
hasn't been his
reasons.
experience prior.
Yeah, at all.
So what was that like for you when she's getting really upset and then shutting down on issues that you were not seeing eye to eye on?
I mean, I think it was more of a lack of an understanding on my end. It wasn't like not seeing eye to eye. I just didn't understand
Yeah.
the depth of it.
Oh, Chris, this is a huge, huge point. I want to pause here for a second. So it's not that you didn't want to understand, it's that you, not living inside of a woman's body, having the experience waking up every day as a woman or a person of color or someone on the LGBTQ plus spectrum, it seems to me, it's not that you didn't want to, but you didn't have the lived experience to really understand why it mattered so much.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way to have that, at least coming from my perspective, you know, growing up in a place in Connecticut and more or less living in a bubble my entire life, and then playing sports through college and being in a fraternity, and you're just surrounded by men that all think the same way, and they're all just kids, and they're all guys, and there's not much lived experience from those people, at least from a perspective of a woman and someone that's had to deal with, you know, adversity their entire life. So being with her is now and has been just so eye-opening, and it's not, the foundation has to be there to the point of respect, deep love, and a willingness to learn, grow, and want to be there for her. And so it's gotten to a point where it's not just me wanting to be there for her, like I want to be there for other people as well, and for myself. And so to that point, it's just wanting to grow and to learn as much as possible. But originally, yeah, it was just not having that understanding and more or less getting frustrated because I don't understand. And then I wasn't taking the time in my free time. I wasn't taking my time to actually learn more about these things. So the only time I would hear about them is when I was with her and she was talking about them. And I wasn't taking the initiative to actually build an understanding on my own. So these conversations, they would always get be full of tension, and then she would more or less shut down and I would be frustrated. And so it was more, I wanted to avoid having these conversations.
Yes.
Because
understandably, you're like, it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
it always
We
ended,
get further from each other.
Yeah. And so the turning point, in my opinion, is me, obviously, persistence. And this is something, and she always says it, these things matter to her, to you, like to your whole family so much because their lived experiences every day. And she's never going to stop talking about them and caring about them.
Yeah, and I didn't say it in a way to be
not
threatening
as a
at
threat,
all. I was
as a
just like,
fact.
I honestly said, and I want you to know that if this isn't something you want, that's okay. That's perfectly
Yes,
fine.
Ava.
I just want you to know
Yes.
that unfortunately, no matter how hard I try, I will never not care very deeply about these things. So.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a threat at all. And
And I would say that. I'm like, I didn't want him to take it that way.
no, but it's
obviously.
the push you need,
Yeah.
and you need to be willing to make that investment in yourself or the people you love.
Yeah.
So
that's the question I wanted to ask. First of all, I have so much respect. I remember being in a conversation one time with a Black woman and her explaining and sharing that she was just so fatigued and exhausted having to explain what it meant to live as a Black woman every day. She wished that more women and people would do their own research to understand what that lived experience through the storytelling and the books and the lectures. There's so much information out there. And I really took that to heart. I was like, she's absolutely right. It's not her job. She's living her own individual life. It's not her job to walk around educating everyone about the experience of being a Black woman in the world. And that really shifted something in me deeply that day. And so what I'm hearing sounds similar from you is like something shifted in you that's like, if I care about this person and I want to invest and build something really beautiful for the long term, then let me put the investment in to understanding these issues through my own lens and studying and learning and understanding something outside of just the white male experience, quite honestly, right?
yeah, exactly. And not getting upset, like the transfer happened, is getting upset because she's upset, because I don't want to see her upset, versus me, these things triggering me rather than just me not wanting to see you hurt. It's actually hurting me at this point, hearing these things every single day.
Which I think is really made the difference. And I would I would say to him, I think that was where I was so frustrated. I was like, you can't, and he would say, no, I get it, or I understand, but you can't really get it if you aren't upset by it, because then that means you don't understand the depth of what's going on and it doesn't actually affect you. And even still, at the point that we're at, I don't expect him to feel things the same exact way I feel them, or think about something the same exact way that I do. That's not the case, because we're different people in so many ways. But I think we just have this mutual understanding and this feeling towards what's going on in the world that wasn't always on the same, I guess, playing field, or we weren't speaking that same language that we are now. It's much more fluid, and now we can both rant about things that are going on and feel comfort in one another, because before it felt very alone, honestly,
yes.
and tiring. But the thing that you said, I loved how you said about the conversation you were having with that woman, that Black woman, about how she's so tired of having to teach anybody, but especially white women, about what her experience is like and how it's not the same as white women, because we acknowledge that being a woman is really hard, but we're white. So that's a very different experience than a woman of color, completely. But, and I think, and that was also something that was important for me. Our family is a rainbow. So we have a bunch of colors in our family, a bunch of different backgrounds. And that was also important to me, that he not only understand the experience of a woman, or at least to the best of his abilities as a man, but to really be open to all diversity.
Yes.
Even if he doesn't always fully understand it, to want to learn and to not be hateful towards that, which he never
Yes.
was. Because I
No.
would have never been in a relationship.
You would have
with
never
him.
lasted
Yeah.
two sentences if there
Yeah.
was a sense of hatred.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what you're notating is that he, at the base of him, it sounds like there is a curiosity
Yeah.
and a willingness. And I tell women all of the time, if you can find that space inside of him, this man that you care about, if he's coming to the table with curiosity and willingness to sit and learn and willingness to do his own research, that you've got everything you need.
Yeah.
100%.
With curiosity and willingness, you can build the most exquisite, incredible relationships together. But if you have someone who is constantly shut down, defensive,
Or trying to argue.
trying to argue, you can't argue a human experience.
Yeah.
It's not even up for negotiation. Someone's lived day-to-day experience is not to be backed by data or facts. It's a heart-centric kind of feeling. And it seems to me that in his ability to cross over to that path, you now feel not that he's just listening to the words coming out of your mouth. It sounds like you're feeling deeply seen. It's really seen in the issues and places that matter because he's taken the step to invest the time to really understand this at a level that was more surface for him before.
Well, it's kind of like, again, the thing that you were saying about her wanting people to do their own research. I think that was, and he has now, and he understands it again in a different way that he didn't really care about before, really. But now it's almost like if you're a student and you go to school every day and the teacher's teaching you stuff, and you have a test the next week, and then you go home and you don't look at any of the material, you don't research at all, you don't study, you're not going to do well on the test.
Yes.
You have to do your part. And I
Yes.
think that was a difference. That's why he wasn't failing the test, but he could have done a little better.
He was close to being expelled.
Yeah. And, but he decided, and again, that's a choice that he continued to make. He never had to do that. But it was important to him because he knew that it was important to me. And now it's important to him in a different way because he's been able to see it through his own eyes and not just through mine.
Yes.
Which I think is important because I can't ever make him see the world exactly as I do because we're just completely different, grown up differently and everything. But
Ava, can you talk to listeners who are like, yeah, but I don't want to lose him, and if I double down on my beliefs or values, tell us like what was it in you that refused to betray yourself and your value system for the sake of this person?
honestly, I think I had some good practice with not worrying about losing people, honestly, before him, in friendships, in honestly any kinds of relationships, because it got to the point, probably mid-high school. From the family we've grown up in, I've always really cared about these things, but as I matured, it just got more and more important to me.
And you got more vocal publicly.
Yeah.
In your situations with friends and social gatherings.
Yeah, I just felt that it was really important to hold people accountable, and I felt even though I could have been friends with this person for a long time, unfortunately, these are my morals. This is something that's really important. So yeah, we can have fun together, but at the end of the day, we're not really that close if you don't even understand that maybe as a woman, what the world is like. Even if I try to have the conversations with you and you might not be open to it, or if you're saying racist things, or even if you're not, but you're laughing at jokes or letting people say things.
Well, you're complicit to the racism.
It got to the point mid-high school where I just slowly would remove myself from things, or I'd leave in the middle of hangouts or parties and stuff. And I wouldn't be making a big scene. It wasn't to, I'm not trying to change how people are. Obviously, I would say things because it's upsetting, and I'm like, how are you even talking like this right now? But it gets to the point where I'm just not going to be around people like that. Yeah. I'm just going to choose not to. And if that means I have 2 friends, then it means I have 2 friends. And that's okay with me. But you have to get to that point.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't willing to do that. A lot of people aren't willing to make other people uncomfortable. And one of the things that I think is important to say that we've talked about, and how I kind of tried to explain this to him, when this still kind of needed to be explained and he needed to understand my perspective, was, women, people of color, immigrants, all these people, trans people, gay people, they're uncomfortable to some extent every single day of their lives just because of what they look like or how they identify. We
And
are
the world's response to them.
Yes. In that way, not in their own personal life. They could be having an amazing life, but they can't maybe walk to their car and they don't feel safe, or they're getting hate online, or the literal president is taking away their rights. So that is something that where they live in discomfort on the daily.
Yes.
White cisgender men might live in discomfort for other things in their life, but it's not because of their identity.
Oh, what
And
an unbelievable
And I
point.
think that's really important. And obviously, him being a white cisgender man and being friends with a lot of guys like that, those guys naturally are making jokes about trans people, gay people, women, a lot of sexist jokes. And it would get to the point where he wasn't making them, but his friends were, and he'd kind of like maybe laugh or just like not really say anything. And I got to the point with him where I was like, I don't want to be around that. It pisses me off. It puts me in a bad mood. And then you're asking later, why are you annoyed? I feel trapped, especially when a lot of times we'd be with just him and his friends, which is fine. I love hanging out with his friends. A lot of his friends are great. But it would just get to the point where even they're not doing it with malintent, it makes me feel bad and I don't like it. And so I told him, I said, we have to get to the point, and I need you to get to the point because I need to feel, you're a man, right? You want to be a protector. It's not just physically, it's emotionally. So I need you to understand, again, I could never force him into this, so I'd have to explain. I wouldn't just say, do this, Right. But we have to be okay with making people, and even if it is a woman saying it, or a black person saying it, or a brown person saying it, it doesn't matter. We need to be okay with making people who make those kinds of jokes uncomfortable, because maybe they'll get a little understanding of what it feels like to be any of those people who are actually dealing with those things.
Right.
So I think, and that was, because he would still kind of laugh their jokes, oh, well, I feel bad. And you don't need to feel bad. Feel bad for all the other,
feel bad for the people they're making the jokes about, right?
Feel bad for the people who are the butt of every single joke, who can't defend themselves and who are living pretty hard lives because of those kinds of jokes and because of that hate.
It sounds like
behavior.
you were really asking him to raise his lens for compassion for humanity, and to take off the glasses he'd been wearing up to that point, which if that's your lived experience, how could you know, right? Anything different. But then you meet someone like Ava who comes into your life. What I'm curious about for you, Chris, is at what point were you like, you know what, this is like too much effort. Really, I think I'm going to
Probably
push.
multiple.
I think I'm going to push the eject button and maybe just pair up with a girl who is just more chill and isn't as vocal about this kind of stuff and doesn't really care. Like, wouldn't that just, in all honesty, Chris, I'm being serious, would that have not just been easier at some time?
Yeah, 100%. But the easy road is never the one that you feel most fulfilled on. So, I mean, to that point, if I can have someone and she can have someone who will just listen, or, everyone can always have somebody else, and there's a million fish in the sea. And having someone who's quiet and does whatever, maybe that was how it, people liked it back then. Unfortunately,
Some people
It's still a lot now, yeah.
yeah, but that's just not who I am. And I want to keep making the sacrifices and just learning for both of us, because obviously those times can get hard when we have those conversations when we didn't see eye to eye. But to your point last night, and we say the same thing, the intensity carries throughout every aspect of both of your lives and in mine too. And that's why I believe, we'll be hyper successful in whatever we do. But so if I want the intense love that we have and the intense laughs and the care and everything else that comes along with it, I have to also understand that comes with intense hatred, sadness.
Not for you, but for the for things in the world.
No, just exactly. But just very intense feelings. So it's either 100 or nothing. I'm going to put all the effort. And if I'm not, to her point before, why would she have these half-assed relationships with people? Because they're not fulfilling. It's like, I want to get a couple people that I really care about, go all in with, or I'm not going to have these friendships at all. So being with her, that's how it's been. And I've had plenty of unfulfilling relationships, friendships, family members, all that. And that's not what I'm looking for. And it takes being with someone who has so much passion and compassion for the world and for people and empathy to understand that exists, and then to want to, be on that ship and never get off.
Good answer.
This is so beautiful, Chris. And do you feel like it has been an additive to your life?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I get pushed every day in the most amazing ways. And I mean, she cares about me more than anybody else. She believes in me and will just say it how it is straight to anybody. It doesn't matter. So that's all you could ask for in a best friend is someone that tells you not what you want to hear, but what the truth is. And well, I mean, sometimes you don't want to hear the truth, but it's you need to accept it. And so I think we both push each other to those limits. We both want, we talk about the future all the time and what we want ours to look like. And we're just working every day to get to that point.
I think you said something really important, though, this piece about the intensity and the passion, really, right? If we're talking about passion, there's the two sides to that coin. The side that is the beautiful, the love, the romance, the sex, all of that, the laughter, the joy, laughing so hard you want to pee your pants, right? You can't catch your breath. That exhilaration and just aliveness. But that coin has a very much of a flip side, right? And it has a darkness and it has rupture and it has heartbreak and it has so much intensity that you're exactly right. It's not like a switch when you are with a woman like that. And I speak to being a woman like that. You can't just flip that switch on when you want the intensity. It's like there are certain people who live with this really ravenous spirit for all aspects of living. And I think that was a place your dad and I had to come to when we almost got divorced. It was this idea of my intensity. And while it was the thing that he was most drawn to and loved the most, it also ended up becoming, as you often hear, the thing you love the most and you're most drawn to ends up also becoming like the thing that is the pain point in the relationship. And if you're willing to spin it in the way that you did, you realize that it's there to serve as an opportunity for incredible growth in the relationship and truly setting the foundation of what I consider the power couple, right? So, Ava, would you agree that you are the emotional leader of the relationship?
Yeah.
Definitely.
But also it feels nice that it feels less like it's just me now, if that makes sense. Like before it definitely did feel that way. But again, I do feel things very deeply. Like I'm an empath through and through. I feel things so deeply that it pains. Like I feel the pain from other people. I feel also again, the excitement and the joy, but it's really heavy, like the things that are going on in the world right now, to the point where it's honestly debilitating at times how sad it is and how much it hurts me. But the nice thing is that he's always, even still to a certain degree, will never understand those kinds of feelings because it's specific to me. He is able to, I think before a lot of times he would maybe try and find solutions or wouldn't really get it. But now, even if he can't feel it as deeply as me, he's able to just let me feel. And like we were talking about with the women being the water and him kind of being that container or that kind of basically your rock that you have to like crash against and some days the water's really nice and some days it's not, but he's always there every day. Like I give you so much credit because I have a lot of emotions. Like we watch a random video and I'm sobbing. But he's there like through all of it. And sometimes now even maybe he'll shed a tear, which he didn't used to do. But
it's true.
As he's tapping more and more into that place within himself. How does it feel to be that rock for a woman who has such a very vast and deep range of feeling that she's very openly expressing on the daily?
You can be honest.
It's obviously challenging at times, but I know what my part is in this relationship, and I want to make sure that I'm the stable thing. Like, not saying you're unstable, but I want to make sure that I'm always here for you. And I think part of the turning point, like you mentioned, is I think very logically about everything, and I try to, and I always try and bring logic and solutions. And being a fixer, whenever there's something wrong, it's just natural for me to be like, okay, you're crying at this, how can I fix this? Or this is upsetting you, how can I fix that? When that was always my mindset, and it has shifted to I just need to listen and to just be here because I can't fix all the problems, and you don't want me to try to. You just want to talk and have me just sit here and listen and understand and be heard, rather than me trying going out and fixing things or coming up with solutions or telling you why this hurts, why this is wrong. But you know that it's common sense most of the time. You don't want to hear that. You just want someone who's there and who supports you and understands and loves you. And so making that transition for me, just taking off that hat and just being, hey, listen, I'm here for you right now. I want to look at you in the eyes and actually listen to what you're saying and understand and make sure you know that, has been pivotal for us, really.
It's that you're talking about the power of witnessing. Like witnessing has been shown to be one of the most healing and connecting energies. I know innately men do want to problem solve and help and fix. And there's a time and place in certain situations where we want that. And I think for us as women to be so crystal clear in our communication. And Dad has learned to ask me, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to actually like come up with a solution for this? And 98% of the time, I just want him to bear witness, because it's almost like then I feel like what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing doesn't feel as private and alone, because someone was willing to sit in my tears or the discomfort and not rush to do anything about it, but just to hold that space. That is a really, really powerful energy that I think we underestimate. The ability for someone to hold the space, to bear the witness. I believe it's literally a holy act to watch someone unravel in a moment in their life and not rush to make it better. The making it better is paying homage to that moment and saying like, I was there for those times of that person's life and I didn't turn away even when it felt uncomfortable inside of me. And I'm wondering, for a man, did you have to learn to like regulate that knee-jerk reaction to want to rush to fix it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you don't actually listen when you're trying to fix.
Oh my gosh, Chris, can you say that again?
You do not actually listen, because when you say the first thing, I'm this, or I'm upset because of this, everything else, I'm thinking about how I can fix that and a solution. So you really aren't listening.
So you're not really connecting then.
No, exactly.
You've already pulled
And
out.
even if we didn't fully understand, I think we could feel that disconnect, because that's why, and that was one of the things that's changed fairly even recently. I mean, in the past like 6 months, that it's like, oh, he's really listening. And that's even just about regular issues too, not even just about, when I just want to rant about something, but that's a big thing on communication.
Yes, that's a really big thing. I love that you said that as soon as she started to open up and you identified there was an issue, now you're scanning your brain for solutions. You've already disengaged. And then we can't build emotional intimacy when someone's already disengaged, even though they're physically in the room or they're there. I could see over the years where Dad was like scanning. He's like trying. He was trying so hard, but I could see he's scanning in his brain for solutions. And I'm like, stop. Come back here. Just come back to this moment. Yeah. But I think if you haven't been raised in that, I don't know if you were or not, but I know Dad was not raised in a family where people were just allowed to be in their emotions and somebody else sit and hold the space for it. It is quite a high level skill set, quite honestly, for humanity to sit and hold the energy of that space and not rush to fix anybody. So I really give you so much credit for being so young and being able to develop this skill set. I have a question for you, Chris. For people listening, for mothers, for daughters, for men, women, whoever's listening, if you were to give a piece of advice to men, this is, because the hope is like women are watching this, but I have a lot of men have told me, I listened to your podcast with my wife, or my daughter showed me. So my hope is this piece they share with the men, if not the whole episode. What would you say if you were to give advice to men of any age from, late teens all the way into end of, maturity, end of life in there. If you were to give a piece of advice to men when it comes to relationships, what would be the one thing that you would say, if put everything else aside, this one piece has been a game changer and will really, really create something beautiful if you want in a relationship?
I would say the biggest thing would be curious to understand where, women are coming from, whether it's just be curious of the unknown and then take massive action to be the change that you want to be. So don't be scared to make the change. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, and this goes in besides just relationships in life, is actually deciding that you want to make an adjustment and doing it rather than just talking about it or thinking about it. So taking action in your life and making sure that you can be the best person that you can for the people around you. I would say just being overly curious and then taking massive action afterwards to make the change and actually work on the curiosity and learn more and be there for the people around you. And put yourself in their shoes. That's kind of the biggest thing is you don't and you never will understand. So do everything you can to try and have just that little bit more understanding of where they come from and just make sure that you, to your point, hold the space for them. And yeah, I think that's kind of I know that was a little bit more than just one
No, that's
thing,
really
but
beautiful. Well, I don't know if it's ever as simple as one thing.
Yeah,
Right?
it's never.
And also, it sounds like through all of what you just shared, there's an element of not rushing to the defense. I think that is one of the biggest things I see and hear over and over and over again is he gets so defensive when I try to talk to him, or I can barely get anything in and he's already like so upset. I think, what would you say to the man who is going right into feeling attacked by what she is sharing?
I would just say, stop putting your guard up. This is the person that you love. Stop trying to make them feel like there is no right or wrong. To what you said earlier, if this is your experience, I can't tell you otherwise. And I shouldn't ever try to.
Yeah.
Because this is how you feel, and I can't tell you how to feel. I can't make you feel a certain way. So why am I pushing back the entire time?
Yeah.
There's so much more that we don't understand. So just open your ears, the 2 ears, 1 mouth thing that everyone always says. Just listen.
Wait, I don't know that.
God or Mother Nature or whoever you believe in gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so listen more than you speak.
Oh, okay. Oh, I have heard that. Yeah, I like
But yeah, just stop getting so defensive. It's people. Why would you do that, especially with the people that you love and care about? And it kind of comes down to making sure that the people that you're with, going into these relationships, they have to have just a solid foundation. You have to have, like I said earlier, respect, love. You have to care for one another. And there are obviously red flags that I'm sure you see all the time when working with women all around the world. We have never had, obviously don't get physical. We never name call. So things like that, you understand, okay, this is what a good relationship should look like, and it exists. Like we've never attacked each other's character or anything like that. And you hear, we have friends that are in relationships, and you hear that and you're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. This is the person that you love, and you're supposed to just act like how do you move on from that?
Yes.
Because this is how you truly feel about this person, and you think about this all the time. So going back to your original point, just being open-minded and understanding that the world is not just lived through your eyes. Other people have their own experiences. And so to be open to that and willing to learn and listen.
Yes. I think that is for all men, but I want to almost emphasize or put in capital bold letters, especially for white men.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that white men at the top of the human food chain, let's say, have been the ultimate colonizer and oppressor. And so it's white men at the most who need to be willing to, for once, be able to sit and imagine someone else's experience, right? Because I think the world has been pretty kind and nice to them typically as they were growing up. And so the first sign of a relationship coming with unhappiness feels like so off-putting because they haven't had the practice like the rest of the world has had learning to be not heard, not misunderstood, unsafe, criticized. We've learned how to navigate that for our whole lives. Exactly. And so I think oftentimes for white men, it can be like, wait, what are you talking about? The whole world has fanned me as I walk down the streets. What are you upset? Why are you upset? Don't you see how fabulous I am? So thank you for your willingness, especially as such a young man, to be able to do your work in the world, because you're an example, even an unspoken example. And poster board for what it can look like to be in such divine masculine. I can say as a mother, like to a daughter, one of the biggest fears and concerns, and I hear this from so many mothers, is like, oh my gosh, what if she partners with someone who we just don't approve of and who does not treat her well, which I would never be able to stay silent about.
Yeah. The first weekend, we're like, nah.
It is just the best feeling in the world to like not even, if anything, let me just say, not even question or worry about any of it, but if anything, like learn from the two of you and find you to be role models and inspiring for me and for my relationship. And Dad and I use your relationship so often as like an example of, and I'm being so serious. I think in many ways, like it's even helped Brian. Like he's so in awe of the way you navigate this relationship with his daughter, right? And honestly, I think that we can never think that we're only the older generation is inspiring the young generation. It goes in both directions because we are both so inspired by watching the two of you. It's just the coolest feeling to be like, wow, they're one of my most favorite couples. I want to hang out with them.
She always comments on my Instagram and stuff, my favorite couple.
Yes, it's like the best. Yeah. It's just, as a mom, it is the coolest thing to watch your daughter stand for herself first and foremost and not betray herself. And in doing so, co-create the most exquisite, respectful, loving, kind, hilarious, compassionate, goal-setting relationship that, I mean, imagine this is just the foundation. Imagine what is possible with this as a starting point.
I know.
So as we start winding down, I'm curious, Ava, what would be your biggest advice for women who are listening who are like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to find a guy like that. He doesn't exist. They're not out there. What do you say to her?
Yeah. So it's a little rough right now. I think, I feel maybe it might be one of the roughest times to be completely honest,
no, I want
to be a woman if you're in a situation where you feel the way that I do and you care really deeply about what's going on in the world and you feel like no men care. And honestly, it does sometimes feel that way. And it's unfortunate, but it's not completely true. But I think the important thing, I would say there's kind of two things I want to say. One of them, I just wanted, when I said to Chris, I said, I don't really know what we're going to be talking about today, but what I really want is to be honest. And I think we've been able to do that while talking through, where maybe we weren't able to come to terms with things, but now we've gotten to a point where we speak the same language and we have this different understanding. But it wasn't always the way that it is right now. And even one of my friends, when I was with her a few months ago, who I don't see as often, but every time we're together again, it's like no time has passed. And she was asking, and also with one of my other friends, and they're both asking about everything. And then they asked about Chris, how is he? And one of them this is one of my pretty close friends. One of them genuinely says to me, do you guys ever argue? And I'm like, girl, yes, we do. We're a normal couple. We argue. We have things that we do that bother each other. We're a normal couple. But in that way, though, I do understand why maybe she thinks that way. Because I do, again, even though we have our flaws both personally and together, but I do believe that we are at a different level than I think most people our age. And I don't even say that to put other people down at all. But I truly believe that we are. And it really feels that way, but that's because we've both decided to make that happen.
Yes.
I think that and I was also talking with one of my other friends who was saying, I'm worried about finding a boyfriend. Like, how am I ever going to do that? I only think that this relationship and this relationship, mine being one of them, gives me hope. Like, that's all that gives me hope. And I told her basically what I'm saying right now is you have to find that foundation. Yeah. You have to find a guy who is open, who if he's hateful at this stage, run. At this point with all this information in the world, if he's still hateful, you just gotta go. But if he's kind of, he's definitely not perfect, but if he has at least a little bit of compassion and cares and has some understanding and wants to know more and is, you could see that potential, then that's worth investing in. Again, obviously, you have to love him. You have to be attracted to him. You have to both have that connection. Yeah. If you have that and he has that, But then you have to be willing. You could love him and you could want to be with him forever. But unfortunately, you're going to have to go through conflict. You're going to have to say things. You're going to have the hard conversations. You're going to have to sit down for an hour, 2 hours until you can both come to an understanding. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
That is the piece. I think you're exactly right. I think that is exactly the piece.
Yeah.
People think that it's all supposed to gel and be perfect.
Yeah,
And I think is what you're talking about, as long as all the foundational pieces are there, because that's exactly what your father and I've done.
Yeah.
Is people will say, oh my gosh, your relationship, it's so amazing. They have no idea. And I always say, you have no idea. Not once in a while, at least once a week, we are having really big conversations. Even when we talk on the phone, when we're in separate parts of the world, we don't just get on the phone and talk about, yes, of course, we'll check in on our day-to-day, but there's always something bigger, deeper, richer. I mean, we know because we do this around every table, every conversation. And so I think matching on that level, and you can suss that out pretty early on if somebody has the capability. And so I would say, it sounds like you're saying, like, don't waste time in your life. If you don't sense that the person has the capability to be curious and willing to hear and learn from you, and in both directions, don't waste any time. Just know that it's not a match.
Yeah, I mean, I would say be curious, but I would also say you have to ask yourself, how bad do you actually want to be in that kind of relationship? Like, because if you really want to be in a relationship that feels like he really sees you and really respects you on all fronts in your relationship, again, some of that was just there naturally because of how much we care about each other. But a lot of that had to be learned. And obviously there's things I had to learn too. Like, we've both grown so much in this relationship. And I would say for me, and for advice for women who want to take on this role of trying to build this relationship from honestly kind of the ground up, is that, you know, again, it's a choice every day, because sometimes you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to want to say the thing. You don't want to like have the conversation. But if it's important to you, you need to. But from what I've learned is trying to go about it slightly different, because again, sometimes you're human. Your emotions are going to get to you. You're going to be really upset about something. But trying to just sometimes take time, and even maybe he'll be like, well, can we just talk about this? And now I feel like I'm a little better at being like, maybe let's just give me a second, because I know that I'm really heated about something and I want us to just talk. I think that's the thing. We don't really fight. It's more we have discussions where obviously sometimes we're disagreeing, but it needs to try and come from a more like leveled place. And I think that's where you will get to where he can listen to what I'm saying. Because I think that's kind of the difference. I mean, obviously, again, you're going to have those heated moments, but I would really say trying to just take a breath and understand that they're not going to get everything from the beginning. And as long as they keep coming back to the table and they keep deciding to learn, then you have the perfect recipe, but you have to have both parts of the equation. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
And I think you have to have people who, in the relationship, who are willing to know themselves. Because when you don't really know or understand yourself, or you don't really see yourself, but you're expecting someone else to see you, it gets very confusing, very conflated, and you can't ever really show someone what it is that matters to you if you are so uncomfortable with getting to know yourself. So many people are very disconnected from their own essence. And so I would say to young men and women as well, getting to really know who you are before you even endeavor on a relationship is going to be really, really important as well. Yeah.
I would say, just to add to that point, which this is for, you know, anyone out there in a relationship, originally, something that stuck with me when we would get into arguments, and maybe they were reoccurring themes, because that's always the worst. It is always the worst for both people.
That was a problem for a long time.
For both people. And and that was something that has more, like, obviously stuck with me now, is when we would talk about something, or something would get brought up from the past, or the same conflict would happen over and over in a different way. I don't know if as a man, usually they're like, why do you keep bringing this up? I've said that so many times. Like, stop bringing this up. How does this keep getting brought up? And like, this is terrible. And then understanding that she doesn't want to bring it up. And then her response is, which is stuck with me and hopefully sticks with listeners and people out there, she's like, imagine how tiring it is being me, having to bring this up because it keeps happening. It keeps happening. So imagine how tiring it is having to bring it up and actually like,
feel that way.
understanding that, okay, wow, you know, I don't want this. She doesn't want this either. She doesn't want to just start a fight.
No.
You know?
No.
And so just understanding that both people need to make the change. It's not like you're just attacking me. You know, I want this conflict to be resolved and you don't want to bring it up either. So we need to figure it out and make sure that these reoccurring things stop happening.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because the reason it keeps coming up is because at the core it's not been resolved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by saying like, we're not talking about this anymore, I'm done, we've been through this a million times, all it does is sweep it under the carpet and it comes right back up and comes right back up. And then you get nowhere. And I think a lot of relationships just end up falling apart because of that inability to come to the table together and say, okay, clearly we have to find a resolution for this. What is something that feels good to both of us? I have some ideas and some solutions. I want to hear from you some ideas and solutions. Yeah. We'll put them together and we'll come to a collaboration on the best way. So we both feel like this feels good to both of us, that it's not just one-sided all of the time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have loved, we could do this for hours. And
I do want to say one more thing,
Please.
actually. It is advice, but it's more for people actually in relationships. And it's advice that you always give to parents to do with their kids, is that we always grew up, and you started this tradition where we, as a family, will write letters to each other for you and Dad's anniversaries, for our birthdays, for anything like that, which you obviously know now. But it honestly has been the best thing for our family. It's such a beautiful and amazing thing because as a woman, I've naturally been more comfortable to express my emotions a little bit more. But as men, it's not as available. It's not as talked about, as normalized. So, you know, my brothers have been able to have that outlet and learn how to do that through, since a very young age, writing letters to all of our siblings, to our parents, for everyone.
And then reading them out loud.
Which I think is so important. So I brought that over to our relationship, and we've been doing that. And I think that's a really important thing because I truly think that to break through these other barriers in relationships, both people, like you said, you have to know yourself, and both people also have to be very emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
Because you can't do any of these things if you can't be emotionally intelligent. It's so important. It's so important. And as I've watched him become more and more emotionally intelligent, it's really changed our relationship in the way that he's comfortable with his emotions as well as mine. Like, he's so much more comfortable with me, like, in any range because he just understands it more, and because he's let go of any uncomfortability or anything like that. Because I really think for so many things, but because we do those letters. And it makes you tap into things where you're really taking the time to write this person basically a love letter or write about them. And a lot of people don't do that. And I think that is amazing for the depth of our relationship to just get to such a different place, as well as to just really respect and like honor each other. And, you know, I just think it's so important. And the last time both of our birthdays, but the last time we did it for our 3-year anniversary, we were both sobbing. So, and he never really cries. So, but it was so amazing to see him feel comfortable to do that, but as well as like hear what he has to say.
Yes.
And it's really deep and beautiful. And as we've both written letters for each other, it just gets more and more vulnerable, which I think really just extends into the rest of our relationship. Because we're like, it's so important. And I think in any relationship in your life, obviously not with like people you're not that close with, but with your closer people, your family and the people that your loved ones, writing them a letter, and it's not just like 2 sentences, like we write a few pages, and it's such a special gift, as well as just it's such an investment into your relationship. So I would say that is for people who are either in relationships or when they get into relationships doing it. I think it's so important.
I truly can't stress, and it costs no money.
It's free.
I know.
It is. I used to say, right, when you all were little, that is the only gift I ever want. Like, that is the most meaningful, beautiful gift to me in the whole entire world. And I think what it creates is an intimacy that you can't access in just day-to-day living. And there's something different about the day-to-day conversations and the reliability of one another, knowing you've got your person. There's a whole nother exchange that happens on a really cellular level when you hear what this person has to say about their reflection of you through their lens, their eyes, their experience of you. And oh my gosh, it just builds such a beautiful, more sturdy bridge every time.
Because how often are you really talking about these questions or asking about it? Life gets so busy, and it's so easy to just skip past it and talk about the next thing you're doing. You know, we're all trying to continue to grow in business and in our personal lives. It's so easy to just more or less not talk about these things or really go deep on them, but they matter so much.
They matter so much. You're exactly right. I think that we typically hear things like that at weddings and funerals. And I'm a fan of like, let's not wait. I don't want to be standing at someone's funeral talking about what an amazing person they were. I want them to know how amazing they were while they were living and they were a part of my life. So, oh, thank you both so much for taking the time to be here. I love you both so much. I'm so in awe, truly in awe of both of you. I have such profound respect for the way you navigate relationships in a world where especially young relationships have a disposable feeling about them lately. And you both restore so much hope. And I know for sure are examples and inspiration and role models to so many young couples. So thank you both for just being the people you are and being so willing to approach your love in such a responsible and exquisite way.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
I'm so
thank you.
happy he could be here too, because I think it really added to hearing from both perspectives, especially as a man. And, you know, it's just been so good. I'm so happy we were able to do this.
This was great. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.